Folks, what I have here for this project is my Big Buddy heater by Mr. Heater. This is a Big Buddy, as you can see. And the deal with these things are, these Big Buddies have a fan that blows heat. And you can plug in to the wall right there, as you can see. And it has this little end on it. We plug that in. A switch. A fan comes on that blows the heat out. That's real nifty and everything. But if you're out camping, it also takes 4 batteries that you can put in this compartment right here. If you're wondering what this is a piece of string I have tying this whole thing together because these mounts right here cracked, and I'm gluing them together, and I got this twisted real tight, pulling the whole case together. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video is about hacking that. So I don't have to put batteries in here. These takes 4C batteries, or you can take this along with you and plug it in. Now this is 6 volts. Okay, that puts out 6 volts DC. This power bank, this is like a phone charger, puts out 5 volts. Okay, I got a USB cord that'll plug into that. All right, I went to Radio Shack and I bought myself a plug to go in here. All right, all I need to do now is solder my USB end onto that so I can run that fan off of my USB power pack. Let's do that. By the way, the Mr. Buddy Big Buddy fan takes a 3 30-second mono phone plug. There's your part number from Radio Shack right there. 274-0289. I think I paid $4 for a package of 2. Okay, that right there shows our polarity. The inside is going to be positive and the outer is going to be negative. That's very important to make the fan go in the proper direction. If not, we're going to be sucking air. So I need to hook the positive lead coming off of my USB to that little tiny tip. And then, see, there's a little tip below, above that black ring. Let me get a macro. Okay, you'll see much better now. This is a macro lens. You see the black ring on this plug-in right towards the tip, right there by my fingernail. Okay, that separates positive from negative. Below it, where my fingernail's touching now, let's just use this as a pointer. This is negative down here. This is positive up here. So what you do is you unscrew the back of that and you put your positive on that lead right there. That's going to be, focus, that's going to be your positive lead that goes down to the center. This outer one is going to be your negative lead. That's going to supply the negative connection to that part of your plug. Let's get to soldering. Folks, I decided that's not quite long enough for me. That's only about 4, 5, 6 inches. So I've got this 6-foot iPhone cord that has USB on one end and it's got the 8-pin connector on the other. Well, it's wore out. It doesn't get a good connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop this end off, and that way I can have a much longer cord to plug into there, because that's just not long enough. Okay, we've got 2 pieces now. This is a braided cord, so I need to get that braid pulled back away from the rest of my installation. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm just going to cut it up here, and I'm going to get it back away from my insulation. I have already went ahead and put a piece of shrink tubing over here and pulled it down out of the way, so it's not in my way of working. So right now what I need to do is get this braid back out of the way of my insulation around my wires. So now I need to get into those wires in there and find which one is hot and which one's negative. That's my next step, is to peel these wires back. The best way I strip wires is with a lighter. I just light it up, get it nice and warm, not too hot, and then just put my thumbnail on there and pull. See what I just did there? I just pulled all that insulation off of those wires and opened it up a little bit. I actually pulled too much. I didn't want to pull the insulation off of the inner wires, but that allows me to peel that back. I'm going to peel that back right there until I can get into those 4 wires that are inside of that USB. Now I suspect that this black wire and this red wire are going to be positive and negative. So I've got a meter. I'm going to test them just to make sure and see. I'll be right back. Now, making sure that I have all of my wires separated, you don't want any of them touching, I'm going to go ahead and plug my USB end over here into my power supply. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. Now I'm going to use my probes from my meter to find positive and negative, which I suspect positive will be red. If I can hold these right, you got to kind of hold them like chopsticks. If you can get these held just right in your hand, I should get 5 volts, which, if you can see the voltage meter up there, as soon as I get that touch like that, I get 5 volts. Let's test the other 2 leads, the green and the white, and see what happens from that. That gives me a very, very low. It doesn't really give me any voltage, does it? Let's flip it around and try it the other way. Nothing. So there's really no power going through the green and the white wires. I think that those are just used for data transfer. The power part comes from the red and the green. So we'll use the red and the green to hook up to our mono plug. Be right back. Let me trim the green and the white away and trim this insulation away so we can have a clean plug. Okay, if you can see, I've cut my green wire and my white wire to 2 different lengths. That way there's no possibility of the tips touching as I push them back down into the insulation. I don't want those to be connected, and this cutting them in 2 different lengths ensures that there's no way that they could possibly be connected. Okay, this is what we're left with. The next thing you want to do is you want to take your cover that came with your mono plug, the little black cap that you had to screw off to get into it. Go ahead and take that cap, find the end, and go ahead and push your wires through there, just like so. Okay, push that through there. Now what we want to do is we want to solder these 2 wires. It's unplugged, by the way. I have this unplugged from the USB power source. We want to go ahead and solder those 2 wires to our mono plug. And the way this is built, there's 2 little tabs right here. Once you put that right there around that wire, and then you squeeze it, okay, that holds that wire in place. That's what that will do. I'll show you that if I can. Let me go ahead and get my pliers and squeeze that. Well, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and trim my other wires into place as far as I need them. So go ahead and trim your positive and your negative lead to go through that hole and that hole right there. And you want to measure how far it needs to be away from, like right there. See how I got that? So I'm going to measure to there. That's where I need to trim that wire. I can just probably, where's my lighter? I need my lighter. There's my lighter. Just light that up. Pull it back. Spin it around a little bit with your finger. Spin that around real good. And I've got a lot of access. I'm going to go ahead and just trim that off. Trim it off. Now, I want to twist that up real nice. And I'm going to even cover it. I'm going to go ahead right now and I'm going to cover that with solder. It's got a nice twist on it, and I want that twist to stay there. So putting solder on it will ensure that it keeps a nice twist and it will have a nice point. Whew. My soldering gun's getting hot. I got a little propane, butane actually, torch type soldering iron. Heat up the wire just for a second. I'll go ahead and put some of that on there. I don't like that ball on the end. I can knock that ball off. There we go. Alright, that piece is ready. Turn our soldering torch off and get our other lead ready. Okay, this is what you should end up with. This is my red, which is my positive, and then my negative comes out that lower hole. Okay, now all I need to do is solder that right here, and then lay that down against there and solder that to that. And then I can screw my cap back on and that job will be done. Let's solder those. Folks, I am using a .0 32 diameter light duty 6040 rosin core solder for this job. I'll go ahead and heat up my wire just a little. Make sure my torch is hot enough. There we go, we got some heat now. Now that should stick to that metal, get that metal behind there hot enough. And that'll all stick together. Alright, that should do it for that connection. Turn off the iron and let that cool for a minute. And assure that it is welded to or soldered to the metal. Because if the metal that you're soldering to isn't hot enough, it's not going to want to stick. So we'll let it cool off for just a second. And then we'll solder our positive connection. We'll be right back. And here's our positive connection. Use one of our burners to slightly warm that up a little bit. And we just want a touch on that hole. Woo, that's warming my fingers up. Too close to the burner. Got shaky fingers. There we go. Starting to get warm enough now to solder. There we go. Now that piece is soldered to the positive half of the mono plug. Now what we've created is a good clean solder connection. So what's left to do now is to just slide our housing over it, screw it on, and voila, we can pull our braided whatever you want to call it, braided cover down, and that's what it looks like when it's finished. Actually, I'm going to tuck that braiding underneath this plastic. Let me do that real quick so it looks better. Alright, here's the test to see if it works. Hey!